Hey everyone, welcome back. This time I'm spinning not a foulborn wheel, but a Path of Exile 1 skill wheel. And I get Shield Crush. This is a very popular skill, as I'm sure you can tell. I quickly checked the wiki, nothing special over there. I joined Box's Refresh League, create a Marauder, wash up on the beach, beat a zombie to death if that is even possible. This thing is already kinda dead, undead even. Kill Hillock and receive Shield Crush as a reward. My personal goal is going to be at least 2 voidstones. I will do 4 voidstones if I feel it's at least worth a try, so that is what I'll be aiming for. But first, let's introduce this skill. And don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, if you enjoy this type of content. Shield Crush is a melee attack skill. You swipe, dealing area damage in 3 waves in front of you. Enemies can be hit by 2 of the waves where they overlap, so positioning matters. Damage skills with armor and evasion on the shield. Every 15 armor or evasion gives Shield Crush some added physical damage. It's pretty straightforward scaling, which is good, because that way I get it. As the scaling comes from the shield, your weapon in terms of damage doesn't really matter, which I found to be quite interesting over the course of this journey. This allows for experimentation, which I will be doing plenty of. In the mudflats, I survive Roas, but not the breach monsters. Not to worry though, I am roleplaying as a stupid marauder. Single target damage is amazing, it only takes 25 attacks to kill Hillrake. Whenever I can, I shop for a new shield. This one has 32 total armor and evasion, so that is 6 to 10 added physical damage. I reach level 6, find new gloves, they also have a bit of flat damage. I decided to put Crushing Fist into the build for now as well, as I block a lot and it is good damage early on. The crab isn't too bad with all of this. I managed to defend the girl this time and I decided to do most breaches as it is so good for gear. Despite me being in a trade league now, which I'm not used to, I will not be trading all that much, and any trading that I will do I have recorded. The league mechanic breach will be my main source for gear though. These gloves are an upgrade for example, and this robe is as well. I path towards versatility as I do need the accuracy. Shield Crush is an attack, after all. Back in town I support it with chance to bleed and maim, and I use an essence on the helmet. I get a new shield, 47 armor, another upgrade. The secret prison area provides a quicksilver flask. This buckler is another shield upgrade, and here is Brutus. The damage really isn't that bad, all things considered. At the prisoner's gate I get some movement speed, I lose the Crushing Fist as I no longer need that damage, and again a shield swap for more damage. I take the early elemental resistances on the tree, I'm very defensive on the tree to begin with. I make another rare with an essence and it is time for Merveil. The fight goes pretty well, I'm already getting tanky, damage is way better than I expected honestly from Shield Crush. This run might actually work out, I think to myself.
Your curse is over, Siren. Rest with Helical.
After closing a breach, I get an armorer scrap, which at low level gives lots of quality. 19%, that's not bad for a single use. I'm getting Unwavering Stance on the tree, as I will be going full armor anyway for stun immunity. I spec the breach tree in such a way that it's going to drop me shields that have high strength requirements and low dex and int requirements. Or in other words, I am making pure armor shields. I get a rare rustic sash, Path to Spirit of War for mana leech, which should help a bit. I drop my first unique while reaching level 21, but I'm not equipping this. I'm playing this mostly like it is SSF just because I'm used to that. I buy a new shield, this one has more armor. I get a new amulet, I drop another unique, the Aurum Vorax, that is a lot of resistances on a weapon. I get melee physical support for Shield Crush, put that sword in the stash as I can't wear it currently. Gamble for a 3-link to socket my new support gems in, and I craft a new rare shield with the tree and a graft as well. So more flat damage is not bad. I take the Dexterity Amulet reward, get AoE on the passive tree, and I finally reached some damage nodes, and now the skill looks like this, also with the craft effect. Looking at Gravicious, it's not exactly a lot of damage, which was expected, but at least I am so tanky that he doesn't hurt much at all either. I take the monsters can't block mastery, very slowly kill Piety while face tanking everything, get my first 4 link from the breach, and also Dominus goes down. Just don't pay attention to how long this actually takes. There's no need to be looking at, minor build details such as damage in Act 3. I decided to get more accuracy on the tree. I am now back to 100% hit chance. I made a new shield, that's a nice upgrade. I gamble a 4 link so I can try automated war cries with Seismic Cry, Infernal Cry and Intimidating Cry, supported by auto exertion. I'm linking shield charge to faster attacks and life tap. You can see the war cries being automated against Vol here, but they cost mana first of all, and they don't seem all that good either. I'm playing with it also during this tense area with so many monsters in it, but I'm not convinced that this is a great choice, so it's not gonna take too long before I drop this whole thing. I benchcraft the shield for more defenses, which is more damage. I decided to do the lab, the damage on Izaro isn't terrible and I get to pick an ascendancy. Berserker I think is definitely an option, it would be a lot more damage, but after some contemplation I decide on the Juggernaut, as I don't play it all that often. I'm gonna be tanky, get a bunch of block, armor, endurance charges and do probably Z DPS. At least I won't die, I think to myself. I start with Unflinching for endurance charge generation. I found the Princess here as well and I take it for the 30% of physical as extra cold, which works with my main skill. I get this new ring, it's a decent upgrade. I get the Pride Aura for more physical damage. I get more accuracy and for reference here's a bit of damage from Comb, emphasizing the bit. I meet Piety again, which also takes a little while. It is slow and steady, I tell myself. And finally, Malachi bites the dust as well. I get my first 5 link, but it is a pure evasion chest. I pass into the endurance cluster. This body armor has twice the defenses that my previous one had. I get a new shield with 319 armor. I'm running a Herald of Ash next to the Pride, by the way. I upgrade the boots, benchcraft my shield to 415 armor. The tree drops her 5 link plus a Heart of Flame graft for more tankiness. And with all of this new stuff, it is time for Kitava. Damage remains abysmal, but it is nice to see that you can just tank pretty much everything and anything and heal back up via leech. Once in Act 6, after doing Lily's quest, it's time to upgrade the build a bit in terms of gems. I have a few things in mind. First, cast and damage taken, Molten Shell. There is an Eternal Blessing / Pride combo in there too, I'll get to that. I get a Warlord's Mark and support it by Mark on Hit to automate it. Looking at the support gems, I get Fortify, Multi-Strike, Pulverize and Brutality. And then I decide to take Blood Magic on the tree. This removes mana, gives 10% more life, and makes all skill costs life instead of mana. With Eternal Blessing you can have 1 aura with this setup, which is Pride. Something else I like about Blood Magic is that next to no more mana issues, you also don't have to care about mana reservations or auras or mana leech, so you don't have to spend any passives on that. It makes the passive tree a lot easier to navigate by just removing a bunch of clusters that are now completely useless. I respec the crafting tree for body armors, I get a 5 link straight away, it is all red, exactly what I need. I don't care too much about the affixes, I just want to slot in my gems. I get the Aurum Vorax back with brutality support, I can't do elemental damage anymore so the princess is useless. Blood magic always activates my graft, so that's nice. I get an amethyst ring that I found, and after executing on my genius build idea, the damage is just as terrible as it used to be. I did gain a lot of quality of life, however, which doesn't translate too well if you look at the footage, but I do get the feeling that I'm going somewhere, either to a decent build or to my own demise. I get a decent new ring, and after equipping this, resistances look good. Multi-strike support makes the skill auto-target the second and third attacks, which is quite nice in the breach for example. I get Fortify on the tree, 23% less damage for 5 passive points, it's a decent deal. I'm getting really tanky at this point despite not doing much damage, for example on this giant crab. It's back to making shields, these are all big upgrades. 894 armor instead of 417, that is double the damage. I'm taking the armor and And evasion mastery, immune to bleeding. That is quite nice, I feel, for just 1 point. Here are some new shoes, 25% movement speed. It's second lap time, where I do my best Quinn impression, and I get unyielding for at least a bit of extra damage, and the AoE helps as well on the shield crush. I set the record for the slowest Doidry kill possible. Did you guys ever realize this fight has mechanics? It's very interesting. The Celestial Sisters go down, but not much faster than the previous fight, and I decide to get Resolute Technique. I can't ever see myself on this build going crit, so I might as well take this, always hit, and remove all accuracy passives while I'm at it. The ZDPS streak continues. I start investing into Rage and take the Mastery that intimidates nearby enemies if you have Rage. That is increased damage taken by my enemies, which is pretty good. I get a new amulet with a lot of life. I tree craft another shield. This one is almost 1000 armor. It is more ZDPS and more on the Depraved Trinity. I feel rather depraved myself when I see how slow those HP bars goes down, but I will admit there is something weirdly satisfying about face tanking every single boss, including ones that really hurt normally speaking, like Avarius. Finally, it is Kitava once more, and despite this build being very low on damage, which was to be expected of course with the Juggernaut and Shield Crush, I am enjoying this quite a bit, because I do feel there's room to skill. I can get a way better shield, for example. I'm only on a 5 link, my gems will level up quite a bit, and I'm really tanky. I am not dying at all, which makes leveling very convenient. I never lose experience, I am not fast or anything, but it is rather steady cruising all in all. I feel there is a clear path forward into maps, so I feel decently confident about this build. That is just a bit of experience that I've gained after making a bunch of builds in-game. I feel I get better and better at predicting if something is going to work out and why. If I knew or cared the theory craft in PoE up front, clearly that would help, but I find in-game experimenting much more fun and satisfying, plus I feel it makes for much better content, which helps. Before I get into maps, I need to do the third lap. Isaro goes down, Shield Crush levels up, and I decide to get Unstoppable. This makes you stun, freeze and chill immune, gives a bit of movement speed, which is nice, and that means I can get rid of some passive points, especially those around the Unwavering Stance, which is no longer required. I decide to get another Endurance charge. I get Lunaris and Gruthkul as my Pantheons for more mitigation. And here is the mapping experience. At this point it's probably what you would expect. Rare monsters in a tier 1 map take about 7 hits to die, if I'm lucky. The map boss takes about 10 seconds to kill. That's no big deal. It's not like I'm going to run hundreds of maps, right, in the end game. I think the minor upside here is the current AoE of the skill, which is actually pretty decent. Should it ever do damage, then clearing with this skill isn't gonna be horrible. The tier map 1 is done. It only took 3.5 minutes. This is gonna be a blast. I'm getting a few flasks, Quicksilver, Granite for armor, Sulfur for damage, and Silver for onslaught. I decided to get Blood Rage onto the build, why not? Free frenzy charges and attack speed. I get these new gloves, fix some resistances using the bench, craft some life on the ring, and I incorporate War Banner into the build, which builds up Valor as I map, and then when I reach the map boss I plant the banner for some more damage. This build is so slow that I don't mind to press another button for more DPS, plus I feel it fits the archetype to plant a banner when I'm fighting, because we all know it's gonna take a while. I might as well decorate a bit while I'm at it. Back at the tree, it's more shields, and this one has 1400 armor already. That is a big upgrade, and after quality, 1689 armor. I get new boots, 30% movement speed, slot in a jewel for some attack speed and life. Here is a tier 3 map breach event. It's already looking a little bit better, and I reach level 74. Here is a nice new helm with armor and life, and then more shields from the tree. It also drops this helmet with some nice chaos res on it. I decide to slot a cast when damage taken in there, linked to Blood Rage and a low level vulnerability curse into the helmet, automating that part of the build for mapping. I'm constantly getting hit and losing life due to blood magic, so that means a constant low level curse increasing damage, and also Blood Rage works. I have a self-cast high-level vulnerability curse as well for those bosses. A Beyond boss spawns inside a high fortress. That's interesting. It's not a problem though, I just hold down the skill button and wait. In that hive, I actually found the Explodey ring, but it's useless to me as I can't deal elemental damage, so I can't ignite or shock. I get a new Heart of Flame graft for a better shield, and here is the first rune, who drops an item allowing me a second graft. This is a tier 5 map and map boss damage looks a lot better actually. This build just may end up getting somewhere. I get to another block cluster. Attack block is 78%, but spell block is only 15%. I pick Versatile Combatant, turning over capped attack block into spell block, but capping block at 65%. This stack works well, I feel, because getting spell block nodes in this area of the tree is very difficult. The tree makes a new shield, almost 1500 armor without quality, and a 5-link chest with 2300 armor. I created a few more of these, build quality on that shield, making it 1799 armor. I color the armor, it's all red. I get a double immortal flash from the tree as well. This one is pretty well rolled and I decided to use it. I just need to fix a bit of resistances. I realize I can craft on the shield still and I craft more armor, putting it at 1998 armor. That's a decent amount of flat physical damage. I get the 15% life mastery as my body armor doesn't have life. Here is a Maven invitation, the damage has definitely improved. Not that it could be worse, I know, but still. I complete the shield block cluster and that puts me at already 65% spell block, which is the cap with Versatile Combatant. It's more shields and a 6-link, it's very nice. This shield is pretty good actually. After quality, it's 2156 armor and it also has a high block chance, which helps. I equip the 6-link, swap out the Immortal Flash belt, it wasn't doing all that much for me after some testing. And thanks to my shield, I can remove some points from the block chance, remove that life mastery because my armor now has life, remove these 2 resistance passives that I had as I have plenty of resistances, and I get the 3% damage per charge mastery as I have 11 charges in total, plus I take the whole rage cluster over here. Rage is a more damage multiplier after all, and it also has quality of life. It feels really good to play with Rage. And here is the damage after all of that in a tier 7 map. Rare monsters die in just a few hits. This is nice to see, there is progress. I grab a socket, I put in a jewel with area damage and attack speed. I can of course buy a much better jewel as this is a trade league, but I'm not very interested in trading. Up to this point, I didn't bother and I barely will with a few exceptions. I can't sell anything either as I don't have a merchant tab as it turns out, and I'm not going to use public tabs. I can't be bothered to receive whispers and stuff like that. I found this amethyst ring pretty good, it's a nice chunk of life, and look guys, look at my build. It's doing decent damage in a tier 8 map. Vroom dies pretty fast actually, and I'm just as tanky as I always have been up until this point. I do the final lap, Izaro goes down and I take Unrelenting, getting even more mitigation. I reach level 86 and then I drop a Perseverance. It's a very fitting name for this build actually. The tree makes me another great shield, 1916 armor without quality, or what about this, 2054 armor without quality. It doesn't have as much block, but you know, 2465 armor on a shield, that's very good after applying some quality. I equipped a unique belt that just dropped and this item provides Fortify if I stun, which I do. I even have the Endurance charge on stun support on my main skill. That means I can remove all of the fortifying nodes, get more rage nodes and get more block nodes as well. Defenses look good, chaos res is a bit low but okay. And here is what that looks like in a map, again in a tier 8 map. It looks like progress, that's what it looks like. It looks like hope. Hope that this build might actually clear the endgame. I'm quite pleased with this, all things considered. The unkillable Demon King seems capable of doing at least a little bit of damage, and that's great news. It's time for another Maven invite. It is very smooth, this one. I reach level 87, drop a Might of the Meek. I don't need a silver flask anymore as the Perseverance provides permanent onslaught, so I grab more armor in the form of a basalt flask. I use a few instilling orbs on all of those flasks and I get a sort of scuffed semi-automatic flask stack, which is better than pianoing I suppose. This is a decent jewel, life and area damage in a tier 11 map. I get my first divine orb, actually useful in a trade league. I got new gloves, craft a bit on them, it's pretty good. I need the dexterity in fact. Here is some tier 13 map boss action, I think passable, and here is tier 14, again not completely abysmal anymore in terms of damage. I get another socket and that jewel from earlier goes back in. And then it is time for the first mini boss, Stargirl. The path I set for myself, be like Quinn, is flawlessly executed as I execute this boss. Typically, executions tend to be quicker than this, but she is trying to make my life harder by raining down avalanches and shooting me with lasers. It doesn't matter though, I can just stand there and crush. She does go down, it is all over. It's 3 time, and again, it made me a better shield. I drop another Perseverance, which is an upgrade. I get a level 30 Heart of Flame graft. I drop a better Aurum Vorax with more resistances, that's good. I try my luck in corrupting the old one, but I don't have luck. And then I make my way to the Hunger Boy, who is rather easy on this build as he doesn't seem to submerge as long as I am in melee range. It is face tank and go. I reach level 91. I actually die from exploding goats and it is on to more bosses.
The defiance ends here, hatchling.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to suffer and test my build with the Searing Exarch. It takes a while, sure, and I do check if I can, by any chance, tank the incineration explosion. Turns out I can't, but I can tank everything else, including a bunch of fireballs if I want. It is rather slow, all of this, sure, but if I get out of the AoE and make sure I don't get those fire debuffs from the ground, I can just stand there and damage him. DPS may be low, but DPS uptime is pretty high. After 2 minutes and 20 seconds, the Searing Exarch goes down and I get my first voidstone. The Eater of Worlds isn't much different. I test once more if I can tank the Hunger AoE ability, and I actually can. That's good news, that means I don't have to avoid everything and that I just can keep swiping my shield. I will say it's close, tanking these attacks. It's not recommended, that much is clear, but it's good to see that it's an option at least should you screw up. After 2 minutes and 40 seconds, the boss goes down and I have my second voidstone. Support gems have reached level 20 and I'm getting more life on the passive tree. I improved my flasks significantly, they're now all automated. I run an Untainted Paradise for XP and I drop the Advancing Fortress. Basically it's another shield for your main hand. I think this is a pretty fitting item. I reach level 93, I take the Frenzied Charge Cluster for attack and movement speed. The tree gets me this pretty insane Royal Plate. Look at how much armor this thing has. I find Vaal Haste in a Vaal side area and decide to equip it. I go kill the Purifier, which takes a while because he has endurance charges, and I try out the currency exchange for the first time in my life actually. Buying myself a Maven's Writ for 21 Chaos Orbs. I have no clue, but that seems like a decent deal. This is going to save me a lot of time and that's what I care most about.
Make it happen.
It's time for more upgrades. I make Shield Crush 20% quality for more damage up close. I do a small passive tree respec, dropping some block nodes and getting dex and int because I want to equip the Advancing Fortress. I think it is an interesting unique to try out. I make sure I'm block capped again after this. I try my luck at the old weapon, but no luck once more. And I slot shield charge and faster attacks in the weapon, which will then also be supported by level 12 Fortify. It's just some quality of life, it's a minor thing, but I like it. I get all my Pantheon upgrades, adding more tankiness to the build. I stick with Lunaris and Dabarath. The latter is because I'm running Searing Exarch maps which always have Burning Ground. It's time to spend some Eldritch currency, and right now I will take any upgrade. I don't have much to spend after all. Flat Fizz on the gloves, Curse Effect on the chest, damage recouped as life on the helmet, and Chaos Res on the boots. I sell a Divine Orb for 80 Chaos. I drop a Veldos puzzle box and I also sell that for 10c. The tree drops a foulborn Instrumentis, I think that's pretty cool. I slightly improve my Perseverance belt, I reach level 94, and here's a bit of tier 16 Breach High Fortress action to give you an impression what the build plays like currently. It plays fairly well, I would say. These guys have 76% more monster life by the way, so the build is shaping up quite well. Here is the map boss of that same map, and while this may seem jarring, I think it's manageable honestly. Considering where I came from and all. I start trading for Elder and Shaper fragments, as that is going to be a huge time saver as well. This is normally in SSF, taking hours and hours and killing bosses and whatnot. And here it is just a click and some Chaos Orbs. Like I said, I've never used this currency exchange, but damn, it's quite convenient. Playing trade and only using this system, that might be an option. I sell some more stuff, use GCPs on the Pride Aura, craft a new Sulfur Flask for armor and charges. I apply some blue Eldritch Implicits too, mostly exposure on gloves. This will trigger my second craft and provide a shield. I run another Searing Exarch as I want the shield, which I get, plus a Forbidden Flame. The shield isn't an upgrade however. Here is a bit more mapping, and for some reason I get 2-shot here, which is really rare. It is so rare in fact, I decided to check how often I've died, and it's only 14 times. The tree drops a new shield, 2190 armor without quality, 2628 armor with quality. I benchcraft fire resistance on it and it's done. I buy another Maven's Writ just as a backup as I want to attempt it, but apparently I'm not ready. I guess I need to do her quests first. I realized that if I want to sell non-currency items, I need a new stash tab. That's not gonna happen then. I complete the last Maven invitation, unlock the 5th map device slot, and now I gain access to the Maven herself.
The prize piece comes to join.
It's time for a real challenge, the Maven herself, and I feel this goes as you would expect. While I have increased damage quite a bit compared to earlier in the video, I would be surprised if it's more than 1 million DPS. I haven't looked at PoE, I'm solving this all in-game, but suffice to say damage isn't exactly high. And I've played enough to say that I can roughly have a decent idea of how many million DPS I do, and this is really not much. Fortunately, to balance that out a little bit, also during the Maven fight, I can face tank almost everything, so I don't have to care about most of the mechanics. I still need to complete the memory game, of course, and place the ground dots in the center, but anything else that she throws at me is not an issue. This fight is going to take a while, but it's not necessarily hard. The only time it gets more challenging is during the beam phase. There is way less visibility for starters, but if I get hit by the beams, I can't recover life, and that is an actual issue. I won't immediately die, but I can't face tank either for 10 seconds. After almost 11 minutes, she dies, whereas I haven't been at any real risk of dying. I get a build, which isn't the right one, I get the 3rd voidstone, and I'm mostly happy that I managed to kill the Maven with Shield Crush Blood Magic Juggernaut. It's a pretty one-of-a-kind build for good reason. I drop another divine while mapping. I just started to throw in random scarabs and my order was completed for the last Uber Elder fragment. I wanted to wait a little bit with that until all support gems were 20/20 in my main skill, which is happening during this map. I reach level 95, the max level that I'll be getting this run. I get the fortifying nodes again for extra mitigation. I check PoE for the first time to check some good main hand weapons, and it suggested Replica Dream Feather for armor stacking, so I bought one of those. For 2 Chaos Orbs. I do have a lot of armor, although I'm not armor stacking, of course. I color the blade. I now need to get block again, so fortify has to go. I take another look at that armor piece from before, 5.2k armor after quality. I look at some other pieces too. Now that armor means increased damage, like these gloves, or this helmet, or the other helmet, and these pieces have a ton of armor on them. I buy fusings, hoping to 6-link my armor. I improve the other armor pieces a bit by slamming and adding quality. I do have to fix some resistances now, and this slam wasn't very lucky, but I have some open suffixes that I never filled, like on this amethyst ring. I apply more Eldritch currency on new pieces. I'm happy with anything decent as I still don't have tons of that currency. I could buy some of course, but yeah, I won't. And then I try to 6-link the chest piece, but unfortunately 500 fusings were not enough. So I will have to stick to my current armor as I do need a 6-link. That's not a problem, I just need to fix some resistances again using the bench. But despite that little setback on the body armor, this is a round of very decent upgrades.
Rot, spoil, and fester.
It is time for the final challenge, the 4th voidstone, guarded by the Shaper and the Elder. This is a significantly harder fight for me as there is no way that I'll be face tanking a bunch of abilities here. The Shaper balls penetrate resistances, so that is no good. I for sure cannot tank the Shaper beam. I'm immune to all the slows thanks to my ascendancy, so that does make navigating the fight significantly easier. Being not movement impaired in these situations is very underrated in terms of a mechanic, I feel. It may be the thing that I like the most about the Juggernaut actually, next to the overall tankiness. When it comes to the Elder though, most of his abilities are quite tankable, except his slam or whatever that just was. That thing one-shot me, I think that's interesting. And not that much later I die again, but I never feel that I'm in any danger here of failing this fight. My own damage with the Replica Dream Feather has improved by about 10% according to PoE, and that didn't even include the new armor pieces. So I think the build is about 15% stronger in terms of damage, which is noticeable in the fight. It shows on the timer as well, as the fight only takes 5 minutes, which I feel is not bad. And then it takes another 2 business days before the final voidstone drops, bringing my total at 4 voidstones. Despite reaching my 4 voidstone goal, I do make some more improvements to the build, although I'm clearly not min-maxing in any way. I could probably go on the trading website and buy significant gear upgrades, but I just don't want to go there. I realized while writing this I didn't even anoint my amulet, for example. But that's fine. What I do get is this rune graft, 10% more offhand attack speed, perfect for shield crush. I select a bad mastery and slot that thing in. I also buy more fusings. I am determined to get that armor piece 6-linked, which after burning through another 200 or so fusings finally happens. This is pretty huge. This is some massive armor increase and therefore a damage increase. In Hideout, to illustrate this, I have 40,000 armor, but while mapping it easily goes to 75 or 80k, and the damage increase as well as the more multiplier on attack speed is very noticeable. Again, I'm in no way armor stacking, but just to walk around with 80,000 armor, I think that's not a bad idea, it's not a bad thing to have. The map bosses will still take a while with Delirium on her and without a curse as she is curse immune, but this guy went from a clunky shield swiper into a smooth and super tanky mapper and bosser. Low damage still, sure, but a massive improvement, and I would personally consider this very doable for a mapper. It is not hard to imagine several upgrades that you could still make, raising both defenses and offenses with the armor stacking. You could lose the blood magic, solve mana and get more auras in there. I think there are better shields too, especially hybrid evasion / armor shields, and after this whole run was over, I went to the PoE Ninja build section and I saw some rather impressive builds with shield crush. They're typically not on a juggernaut as you may expect, and no one is using blood magic, to no one's surprise, but this build on a Slayer or Berserker could still be pretty tanky and do like 5 to 10 times my damage, because those ascendancies actually have damage multipliers on them. What I'm trying to say is, Shield Crush seems to me at least a decent skill. It was buffed in 3.25 along with many other melee skills. I like how straightforward it is to skill, which is a rarity in PoE. If played on the Juggernaut, you can't really die, so you're going to get a bunch of levels and experience, which offset the damage loss to an extent. And what I personally find very important, the skill once built up properly, or at least to what you see in this endgame mapping footage, is quite comfortable to play. It feels good. I think it's a very fun skill actually. I think it's interesting that you don't use your main hand, which opens up so many options. In particular when playing solo self-found, that is a real pro, because you will find random weapons and you can't target farm most uniques. So having a weapon slot that can fulfill many purposes but damage, that's a big plus to me. It's niche and probably sort of objectively wrong in terms of min-maxing, but I liked the blood magic choice as well. Of course, Pride alone as an aura isn't amazing, I see the downsides, and now Determination as an extra aura would be a big armor boost, but still. Blood magic removes so many variables you otherwise have to account for. I can highly recommend you try it out if you haven't, because I again feel the upsides are very significant, especially when leveling and progressing. I think later, at the point I'm at now, it may not be the technically correct choice anymore, as you can probably solve mana and reservations quite easily, but hey, I saved myself a bunch of passive nodes, a bunch of headaches too. I can run way more map modifiers, don't forget about that, that's also important in SSF, and I think at the end of the day it works well. So all in all, I'm very pleased with the final result. I wasn't too sure what to expect from Shield Crush, but it's pretty decent. Give it a go if you're ever so inclined. Maybe not on a jug, but hey, with enough patience and trial and error, you'll get there. And that's also how you get to the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you haven't already. It really helps. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.